Today is November 14th, 2016. I am interviewing John L. Witlain at the Butler VA Medical Center in Butler, PA. Mr. Witlain is 71 years of age and was born October 20th, 1945. My name is Chuck Jennings, the interviewee. Mr. Witlain, what branch of service were you in?
Army, United States Army.
And what was the highest rank you achieved?
Specialist 5,
And where did you serve?
Vietnam.
Let's start back in 1963. You graduated from high school?
Yes.
And where was that at?
Keystone High School, Knox, Pennsylvania.
Now, after you graduated high school, did you find work or were you working somewhere?
I worked at a service station pumping gas for a while till I went into the service.
And why did you go into the service? What possessed you to go into the service?
Well, my father wanted me to try something, and I just said, well, I'm going to do it.
So you took your oath, you went through your medical things.
Right.
And so you enlisted. And you didn't go in till after the first of the year.
Yes.
So you got a delayed deferment, basically.
Right.
And you spent time at home at Christmas
Yes.
before going.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you go from that point? Did you board a train? Did you board airplane? How did you get to your base?
We took a train to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
And what was your induction like there? What different things did you go through during that period of time when you first arrived?
That's getting clothes, and haircut, and being assigned to barracks.
Now, once that was completed, did you take classes? Do you remember what kind of classes you took? Do you remember doing stuff on the grinder or PT? What were some of the things that you did there?
Well, we took basic infantry training, took our rifle thing, like shooting a rifle, and I believe even a pistol. We did PT, KP. We ran 6 miles every morning before we ate. Of course, we had our nice little GI haircut when we first started. I don't know. I can't know if I remember anything else.
Now, when you first arrived, did you have to wear leggings? And as you progressed up the ranks, you got to change different clothes, or you just wore all the same clothes from the beginning to the end of your basic
Just
training?
the same, you know.
Now, at that point, did you have to do any infiltration, or did that come later, where you had to crawl up with machine gun fire, or in your basic training, it was just getting you ready to be a soldier?
Right.
Do you remember some of the classes that you took? If not, that's fine. I would just simply ask that.
Well, you did the gas mask test and bang on metal, how many, 3 times or whatever it was. Oh, we did just basic infantry training as far as really.
Now, when you entered boot camp, what weight were you?
I was 205 pounds,
And coming out of boot camp,
168 pounds,
so you
38 pounds.
you were mean and lean.
Oh yeah, I put cigarettes out of my hand like I'm on leave.
So after your basic was done, you did get a chance to come home during that period of time. It was a week and a half or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
So what did you do during that period of time that you got a chance to come home?
Oh, I visited with family and friends, and I don't know, maybe we went spotting deer like we always did before. Just mostly just visiting, eating good food.
So where did you go to from that point where was your next base or?
I went to Fort Holabird, Maryland, to become Intelligence Division. I did not pass that, and I was given the choices, and I decided to be a medic.
So that was you spent about 2 weeks in around Maryland at that fort. And
No, I would say it's more like 2 months.
2 months? I'm sorry.
Right.
2 months. And then what fort did you go to?
Fort Riley, Kansas.
And was there for 6 weeks?
No, I was in school for 6 weeks
In
to be
school?
a medic.
Okay. And what did you learn there? What did you learn being a medic? What things did they teach you, or what things did you do?
Taught, first aid, giving shots, and I never worked in the hospital, but that was just sort of like cleanup. The woman had a baby. She thought I was the doctor. And it's basically about all I can remember.
So you didn't have any combat medic training whatsoever?
No.
It was just
Basic.
Did you work in sick bay?
After I got out of training.
Oh, okay, that was after you got out of training. So did you stay at that base?
Yes.
And it was the 1st Infantry Division?
Yes.
And once you completed it, and you said that, were you assigned to the 28th Infantry Battalion?
Yes.
At that time, or to the medical unit of that?
Yes.
Okay, so you basically worked in the treatment room and passing out medications and, you know, aspirin
Shots.
mainly?
Well, shots. Yeah,
Shots.
mainly aspirin.
Yeah.
Giving shots. Big line of people getting their shots.
Well, in September, I believe, of '66, the unit got orders to go to Vietnam.
That was in September of '65.
65, I'm sorry. And in '65, the unit got orders to go to Vietnam.
Right.
So the unit packed up. How did they travel to the West Coast? By
Train.
Train?
Yes.
Do you remember? Did they have sleepers?
Yeah, I believe we did sleepers, yeah. It might have been like 2 bunks or something.
Did you eat on the train then?
Yes.
Did you stand up on the train to eat, or did you have actual tables in Pullman cars?
We had tables or ate at our bunks or.
So at some point you landed in Oakland, California.
Right.
Now, how long were you there before the unit shipped out?
I wouldn't say any more than 2 days.
So you boarded your ship then,
Yes.
and tell me, was everybody up on deck when the ship moved out past the Golden Gate, or
Yes.
so you passed Alcatraz and?
Yeah. Well, see, though, I don't know. I know we went under the Golden Gate. Now, I'm not sure where Alcatraz was located from there.
So roughly there was what, 1,500 to 2,000
Yes.
troops on board? So what was life like on board the transport?
Oh, just watching scenery and doing KP and watching everybody get seasick, and luckily I didn't. I don't know, we did any games or other, exercising, and that's all I can remember.
Now, the ship stopped at, I believe, Midway?
Midway Island, yes, we
Yeah.
spent the night, as far as I can remember, a night.
Probably getting fresh water and, so where was your next stop?
Next stop was Saigon, Vietnam.
And what, you pulled up to a pier then at that point and unloaded from the pier?
Yes.
So, after you're unloaded, they took you to where? What happened next after
Well,
you
we were
unloaded?
sent out into our unit, I suppose it was just the 28th Infantry Battalion was sent. We went to, I guess it was sort of like a field there and holding area, and we spent a few nights there before we were shipped on out.
So what, you had to sleep in your tent halves and on the ground?
Yes.
So during that period of time, did they send anybody out on patrol?
Yeah, we were sent out on patrol.
Yeah, what happened during that first patrol?
First patrol, I was on the right-hand flank as a medic with a 45. The person beside me had a grenade launcher. We were in some bushes, and we saw somebody going across the hill dressed in black. And of course, we were told not to fire unless we were fired at back then. So eventually, we opened up fire now. And I remember saying to the guy next to me with the grenade launcher about my teeth chattering. He said, no, he said, I didn't hear because mine was chattering too hard. And so we spent the night there, came back in, and I remember going to sleep, and on daylight, the sun was bright, and I got burnt real bad on my leg because the top half of me was in the tent.
So the unit packed up and moved on north.
Yes, moved in.
And roughly how many miles was
I think
that?
it was around 60 miles.
And at that point, you set up an aid station, and you continued working in the I call it outpatient, in the aid station itself, doing
Somewhat, until I was assigned to another platoon, A company or B, whatever, and I was back in headquarters company.
So, did you do any patrolling at that time, or?
I don't recall.
Don't recall going on any patrols?
Not right then.
So, at some point, I guess, you went down to get supplies in Saigon.
Yes.
Can you go over with that experience? What
Well,
happened?
we got our supplies, we were on our way back, and I was riding with the commanding officer in his Jeep, and there was a deuce and a half so far up the road, a couple hundred yards maybe, and Claymore mine went off and blew the deuce and a half, probably 10, 12 feet in the air. Of course, there was wounded. I got up there. I recall me and another medic being there, and I fell in front of the, behind the cab, and the truck was blown in half. And I went and used what I could do to stop the bleeding, and, of course, and the fellow, the other medic, and his private Gary Crusader, he had a broken, chipped ankle, and he was doing what he could do as far as helping anybody else that wasn't quite as wounded. And I remember, like I said, just trying to get his bleeding stopped, and he lost both legs from, well, basically waist down. And he was alive, and I don't recall anything,
Yeah, you
whether
just
they
loaded
took him
him-
out or.
You just load them on the chopper, and you never heard anything
I
else?
never heard anything.
Yeah,
I didn't, yeah.
So, anyway, you ended up back in the base
Back
again?
in.
Yeah. So, what happened during your time there? What was the daily routine there? If you got up in the morning?
We were, passing out medicine, working with they had doctors, and they had the NCOs were specs, they were sergeants and then they got, actually they might have been specialists 6, 7. I think there was a E7. They were sort of in charge. And we got sent out on patrols.
Well, let's go into some of your patrols
All right.
that you went on. So, would you leave by foot by your and go out near your base, or did you go by helicopter? What were some of the patrols like?
Well, we were out on a helicopter, and
Now, how far was the helicopter base
it was
from?
about a mile and a half away.
So you
the
trucked
air base.
you trucked down to the air base and
Right.
loaded up there. So you just go out somewhere and chop her down and
Yep, set her out wherever they could set it down, mostly.
so then from that point you set up a perimeter and move out, or the whole unit move out?
Well, we would set up a perimeter, but then we'd just go on out and do our mission to find the vehicle home or whatever. See, I don't know which one I started at.
So at some point, one of the missions you were on, I guess you got mortared?
There was mortar rounds come in.
Yeah, go into that.
Well, there was, I can recall the one that knocked the one soldier unconscious, and luckily he wasn't hurt any worse than that. And I told about, apparently I lost my aspirin out of the medic bag on the flight in and gave him salt tablets, and he seemed to think everything was good, you know. And once he came to.
He continued on the patrol then. He continued on to the patrol then, or did you chopper him out?
He was, I think he was stayed there. He was just, you know, I don't remember him being flown out or anything.
So, on some of your patrols, you would come back in. What did you do to kill time?
Played cards.
What kind of?
Played
penny ante?
Poker.
What were some of the stakes?
Could win $300 a pot on one of those, and you know, it was big ones. And like I said, we had a sergeant, Tolbert, that somehow we used his card and foot locker, and he'd take a drag out of whatever it was, how much the pot was, would be the percentage, maybe $10 or $5, I'm not sure. So then we went to the EM club. They had an EM club set up. Drank beer and whatever they had, and ate sardines, and woke up during the night, go out and stick your head under the water wagon, and drink all the water you could take in, just to get rid of the salt. So then it was probably back out on another patrol or mission. So we're going into
Now, some of these missions would be 2 weeks out in the field.
yes.
So, you know, now, when you were out, you get just dropped off and move on out. And was this rice paddies? Was this low hills or into the hill country?
Well, we were in, basically, we land, you know, an open area in rice paddy, then we go on out and maybe into more of the jungle or open area with trees. And
So, sometimes, did you receive fire, then you called in air strikes on some of the things where you received fire from?
there was a lot of airstrikes going on in artillery. And we had an artillery officer that he called in close. I mean, he just told us to get our steel plots on and keep our A up, and it would, I guess it was 100 yards. I mean, I don't know if that sounds, but just, that's, you know, which was nice. You know, we knew that he knew what he was doing and would keep us safe. So, and I remember one incident where a young black private, he had a 45. He was behind a rock, and I don't know, we were taking fire. He kept going around the rock, and the 45 fell in half. So, of course, all I had was a 45. So, I think that was about all I can remember of that.
Sometimes you would have a little air support aircraft above your unit
Right.
calling in air support.
Right.
A little TAC officer, you know, in the airplane.
Yeah.
So, describe some of the bomb missions that came in on you. And
Well, he had probably, what was it, an M14 or something. He would fire, it was sort of crazy, I think. And he'd call in, you know, napalm and airstrikes, and I can remember it was a village, and people come running out. I don't know where an M was on fire, but and what happened to anybody who was in the village. I remember that part. And that was, I think that was whenever we were supposed to take a hill, and somehow we ended up not doing it. Of course, you know, they had to illuminate it going on to see all everything was going on at night, but then I don't remember anything happening, whether we sent a patrol or something out, but I know I didn't go out.
So, then you come back in for a week,
Week or two,
2 week,
yeah.
week and a half,
Yeah.
and then go out on another mission, chopper out.
Right.
Now, at one point, one of your people was killed by friendly fire, I guess, in the village.
Yes. Right.
What
Well, it was,
happened there?
actually, I believe it was a mine or something, or a bomb or explosion. And he was, I never saw him. I know he was exploded off, but I didn't see him.
Now, and again, one of your missions, the air support was called in and a 40 millimeter rocket landed near you guys.
Right. That was, we were all standing around, and this helicopter came in, and I just saw this 40 round coming off and hitting the ground. I said to everybody, lay down, doctor, get in your foxhole, and it never exploded. So I believe that was whenever we were interviewing a Viet Cong. I think he was saying about taking us to where there was 8 Viet Cong with red rifles, and I don't know if they were red Chinese, or for a minute I thought they were painted red, and I told this colonel that I think we better think about this, because there might be way more than 8. And there again, we never went out. I don't know whether they had any place where they could call in any bombs on it or anything. So.
Well, let's talk about some large airstrikes, the B-52s.
Right, I mean, we could hear them up there, and I suppose, like you said, there's rolling thunder, and I'm, you know, they were dropping quite a ways away, but, and don't recall ever hearing the ground shake, but I could have blocked that out. I remember the bomb craters would get our drinking water and just wipe off the green scum and put salt or iodine tablets in it, and it was good enough to drink for us.
So there was a couple instances where snipers, you know, had tied down your units and caused some havoc. And there was one instance how you got your Bronze Star. Can you go into that a little bit?
That was when a soldier was shot in the back of the head. I was assigned a helicopter to get him back to aid station. And I did everything I could do. I was giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Every bandage I get on the back of his head, and it took quite a while for him to get back. And then he passed away as soon as we hit the landing. So he, and the chopper pilot was saying about how they'd put me in for a Bronze Star for that. So that's how that happened.
Now, some of the other things that happened, you went through rubber plantations?
Yes.
What-
And
what-
actually, I don't remember, well, actually, I think we was taking fire, but it ended up being the South Vietnamese. Nobody got hit, because it was like, okay, we know what's going on here. And of course, you know, you could see the rubber trees, and they could stick arrows in them. I forget what the name of that.
The Montagnards.
Montagnards, yeah. That's all I can remember of that operation.
Now, sometimes you would go through villages and they didn't police up their bodies. And can you go into some?
Actually, that was going in through the jungle, and we'd find, like, we were counting numbers, and I believe there was like 50. But it ended up being, because they said everybody to count, so I think it ended up being quite a bit of, actually I think it was in the newspaper article I had, but I don't know where it is. And,
End up to 200.
yeah, anyhow.
Yeah, there's only 50 dead, but ended.
Cotton, yeah, cotton, yeah.
So, you were saying about the stench of the bodies, you know,
Right.
and they
smell
bloated
something
and
awful. Yeah.
black. At one point, I don't know if it was Lieutenant Johnson or...
Yes.
Can you go into that story with Lieutenant?
Well, there was a sniper in a hole shooting out of it, and he decided to be John Wayne and ran up, tried to shoot down the hole. Well, he was shot in the groin area. And I remember going up to help, and somebody said duck, and that's when the bullet went by, and the hair on my neck was standing on end. And then I ended up going back with him to helicopter.
He wrote you a letter after you
He
got
wrote
back.
a letter when he was discharged. He didn't come back, but he wrote a letter signing it. One, not Lieutenant Johnson, I believe.
So, at some point, I don't know if it was that operation or another operation where you saw your friends
That
Trip
was
over.
home base.
trip over a booby trap.
Well, they were sent into dozer operator. Apparently either hit a mine or somehow they were called in, because I don't recall him being injured real bad. And they were called in and they stepped on mines, and several of them were killed, blown in half. And like I said, they called us in, the rest of us, and I just went in shock. I couldn't even move. Apparently one of the other NCOs led me out and took me back to the aid station and gave me some sort of a pill to relax me, or I don't remember what it was. Of course, then you could remember them having the funeral for them all, you know, having the guns going off, and gun salute.
One of them was your best friend too.
A couple of them were, actually, I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, you get attached to a couple
Well,
guys.
you've been there with them all the time, you know. Weren't some of them you were there actually when you were in Fort Riley, Kansas.
So, at some point, you finished your tour of duty
Right.
in Vietnam. So, how did you come home?
Well, I rode to the airfield with our commanding officer, Captain Christie, and I remember saluting him. I really liked him and respected him as an officer, and he left me there, and I took a plane into Saigon. And I believe we turned over mostly everything in except for what we had on our back, and got on the jet, fly out, and just remember that.
Do you remember your feelings on the Freedom flight?
It was something just like, you were just drained, all your worries and stress were just left your body. You could just feel it. And then it took, what did I say? We stopped in Hawaii to refuel, and then we left and we flew right to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where I was discharged. But I remember another thing on that where there was a young man that was in trouble, and they had me in charge of keeping him, being with him, so I don't know if he was handcuffed to me or not, but I remember having to take him to whenever we landed and turn him over to somebody. And then we were sent into Fort Dix to basically be officially discharged or just go home.
Now, you said your bus ride was longer than your airplane
The
ride.
bus ride was stopped at every little tiny town in Pennsylvania. I believe it was at least, I was thinking 18 hours, at least that. And I remember getting home, my parents met me at 4 in the morning, and of course, we were all happy. So that was that.
Now, after you came home, did you get a job right away, or?
Yeah, it was probably a couple months. I got on to the glass bottling plant. It was called Knox Glass. And I worked there as a packer. Their bottles would come down on a lid, and you put them in boxes, and then I was quality control. Eventually they had automatic packers where they just come down the line and they go into this packer that would fill anywhere from 12 to 24 bottles. And I'd be the quality control inspector and check so much of the pallet to decide whether it could be released or whether I put it on a hold.
So you were there for 20 years or so?
Yes, I was.
Till about the 80s thereabouts?
86, it closed down.
And it shut down?
Yes.
So what did you do from that point on?
From that point on, I got on at a trailer factory, spraying, molding the doors. I was there for, I think, 4 years maybe, and it shut down. So I got on a cabinet shop, and there we were building exterior, interior doors. And I ended up in the cabinet shop for a while, cutting out stuff for the cabinets, places, and well, then I had a chance to go back to one of the trailer factories that reopened, well, basically that's where the glass plant and the other trailer factory was. Well, I ended up there for, actually they hired a bunch of people, and then 2 months later we all got laid off. So then I got into a job traveling with another glass company, which was nice to see all the country. It was in Washington State, Florida, Kentucky, Massachusetts, all over. You'd just go wherever they called you, and you'd spend anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks there. And you come home, you might be off a couple of weeks, then you go back out.
Well, after you came home in 67, what happened? Did you get married?
I was married in June, I believe it was, 67. And I had met my wife before that. There was a hangout we did for quite a few years, and I think I had met her before I went into the service, or around that time. So then we were married and had 2 daughters, Jackie and Heidi, and she came down with Huntington's chorea and was in her probably late 20s, and it just progressed into where she just had to be put in a nursing home, and then it just progresses to your body shuts down, your organs shut down, and
So out of your reunion, you had what, 2 daughters?
2 daughters.
Now how many grandchildren do you
I
have?
have one granddaughter, and her name is Georgia Ann Flemback. She lives in Rhinebeck, New York.
And she's 14.
14, just turned 14.
Now, at this time, is there anything that you might want to add that we've not talked about, or you can recall to add to your story at this time?
About back in basic or not basic?
Well, any of your
Fort
story.
Riley, Kansas.
Yeah, any of your story that
Well,
you
this
might.
is where I was saying in Fort Riley, Kansas, they were giving a demonstration on a flamethrower. And it was this Captain Christie. And he jumps out and goes, "I'm Captain Christie," and he shoots that flame out, and some of the other guys said, "You're not careful, you end up being Captain Crispy." So, and another time we had this, well, he was probably in for 25 years. I've always come up with Sergeant Johnson, but I know that was his name, okay? It must have been a common name. But so we had this young black boy, Private Jerry. All he wanted to do was get out. He was drafted, and that's all he wanted to do was get out. He'd always pull some pranks. So one night, of course, Sergeant Johnson would come in and wake us up every morning. We were on the 2nd floor. Well, Private Jerry crawled up in the rafters. Had a white t-shirt and white underarm on. He had big, heavy glasses. So Sergeant Johnson come in and he looks, he said, "Private Jerry, what are you doing up there?" He goes, "Sometimes I sleep up here at night." He was always pulling tricks. So he was.
Well, at this time, I'd like to thank you for your service. We didn't get told that when we came back, but no, thank you for your service. Yeah, we do now from the other vets, but now when we came back, it was a different world.
Right.
But thank you very much for your service.